Hey guys, today it's raining out, so I can't really do much. So I'm gonna do a stringing tutorial today, and it's not on a new head; it's an OG Proton. But basically, what it's gonna be is it's gonna teach you the basic fundamentals of stringing. It's not gonna be that in depth right now, like how to string like a specific head. But it's going to teach you like the basic things you need to do to string a head that should transfer over to most heads. So if you're really having a lot of trouble stringing a head, at least after this video you won't be completely lost. So what I'm going to start off with doing is the top string. I got a mesh right here, and for this head what I'm going to do is a 9 diamond top string. So you fold it over. A good way to tell if it's 9 diamond, it's the row where the diamond doesn't go completely to the edge. If you're too lazy to count, just so you can get it quickly done. It's the row that the diamond doesn't go completely to the edge. That's that row. See how the row under it, the diamond goes completely to the edge. I don't know, it's just a quick way to figure it out, rather than counting them, if you forget. So, do that. Go through the hole, through that mesh, through the hole again, and back out through the mesh. Then you pull it tight, looks nice and snug. There you have first tie off. Sorry guys if it looks a little weird, not used to doing it backwards. Alright, and for this, what you're going to do, you're going to go through the plastic, out through the mesh, and pull it tight. And for the next one in the same hole, you're going to go through the mesh first, then once you get to the sidewall through the mesh, you're going to go through the front hole in the plastic first, then pull that tight. Now the loop that you created from the first hole, you're going to want to go back through that. So it's basically an over-under. You go over through the plastic first and make an interlock, then you go through the mesh first to make an interlock, then you just pull it tight. Sorry about that. Pull it tight, then pull it sideways just to even get a little bit tighter. Then you do the next one. So I'll show you guys 2 of them, then I'll finish them up fast, because I don't want to make this video like a half hour, because that'd be a waste of time for you guys. So notice, it went through the plastic first, then back out around through the mesh, pull it tight. See, pull it tight, interlock, then go through the mesh, through the front hole in the plastic, and then pull it tight again. Now, for this, if you ever wonder how some people get it really tight on the top string, here's just an easy trick to do it. You notice the interlocks, the over-under, are on a slant right now, and they're not in the middle of the plastic hole. So that, right now, this is tight, but it can be tighter. Like, it's not that high tension right now, but a trick you can do that'll save you from like pulling it really tight like beforehand is just tie it like that, and then just take your fingers, pull on it, and just shimmy that knot down to the middle of the plastic diamond. And what that's going to do is that's going to tighten it up. It's going to tighten up the string and make it really tight. It's going to stop it from moving around a lot. And the reason you want to have everything tight is because if this top string was loose, what would happen was you wouldn't get as good a channel. The mesh, it wouldn't be as consistent. You wouldn't get as good a channel. And what would happen is once the mesh begins to break in, you would really get the ball the ball would hit off the top a lot, and you'd probably get a little bit more whip too. And that's just for the top. You really want to keep it tight. So I'm just gonna finish this up quick. The other two. Same thing all the way across, over, under, pull it tight, and then pull it across. Yep. So that's that, and then to tie it off, you're going to tie it off the same way you did on the other side, so do everything backwards. Go through the inside hole. Here, let me just get this. Through the outside of the mesh, so the strings on the inside. Go through the inside hole. Wrap it back around to the outside of the mesh. And then back through the inside hole. Back around to the outside, and then back to that same inside hole. And just pull that tight. Now, keep that very tight, and you'll see why in a second. Now, this is how you tie it off. There's multiple knots that you could use to tie it off, but there's really one popular one that people use. It's fairly easy to tie, and what it does is it keeps it tight. Like, it's a wider knot, so the knot doesn't slip through the hole, and it keeps it tight. I'll show you how to do it over here. That's how I do it. It's just a quick trick. You curl it once around, twice around, once, twice. So you have two curls. Go around and through the back. What that is going to do, then you pull it tight. As you can see, it makes a wider knot. So all the cross companies use. It's basically like the regular knot you would just do to tie something off quick. Like that, just go like the loop-de-loop knot, except you wrap it, instead of going through one loop, like if you notice you just go like that and through one loop, instead of just doing through one loop, you do twice around and then you go through that loop. And that's basically how you do it. So I'm going to show you guys another trick on how to keep the sidewall hole tight while you're tying it off, because I know tying the knot is not that easy, really uptight against it. So you tie your knot as close to the plastic as you can to start off. You don't pull the knot tight immediately. You notice my knot's still very loose, and what you want to do is you want to pull the outside ring of that knot tight. And what you'll notice is the knot gets tighter against the plastic. Then once you're done, you just pull the slack, and what that gets you is it gets you the knot tight with the plastic hole. That's how I do it. I'm sure there's probably other ways. Then you just cut it. Take a lighter. Melt the end. This way it stops it from frizzing. You don't need a huge knob at the end, just melt it a little bit. And then you're ready to start the sidewall. Now this is 13mm mesh. So for 15mm, you may or may not want to make it deeper. But I'm going to show you guys in a second why it shouldn't matter too much. This is a wider head. And what happens, like it's wide up top, it has very little pinch. But what happens is when you take this head compared to a regular head that you'd buy nowadays, there's probably more pinched along the lines of this. I know it looks a little weird right now, but that's because the top is like, if you buy a head, it's going to look more like pinched in like this than it is going to be out here. And what that's going to do is that's going to make the pockets like deeper. So you could pretty much use the same pattern if you have a more pinched head. Or you could make it tighter or looser, however you want. One rule about the sidewall that you always need to remember is you always need to keep it very tight. Some people, they see a lot of beginner stringers, what they do is they keep it loose, and what happens is it has a good pocket, but it's not very consistent. It's not going to work great for long. If it gets wet, it's not going to work too well. So that's what you do. Keep it very tight. So for the tie-off, you do that same knot at the end. You go through the outside of the plastic. What I do is I go through the same hole I went through at the top string, back out, and through that same hole that I used for the second hole. This way, it pulls down on two holes. It stretches that top diamond out, which I'll show you guys in a second. And pull that tight. And then you end up going back out through that one hole. This way it's just on the outside. Pull it tight. And what that does is it pulls that whole diamond down. It keeps everything tight up top. And if your top string is a little loose, what that does is it makes up for it. It pulls it down tight. As you can see, it stretches that last diamond. Now, here's another thing that I do. It's a trick to keeping... What this does is it keeps your sidewall very tight, and it doesn't make it so the mesh is pulled down vertically, so it looks like when you put straight shooters, it makes it like a U towards the end, because that's just how tight it is. What this does is it pulls it tight, but it doesn't necessarily pull it down as much. It's just a little trick to help you out. What I do is you go on the one mesh hole in instead of the very outside to start off with. You go through the outside of that hole. Then you go through the outside of the plastic. Pull it tight. Do an interlock. Interlock. Just pull it tight. You can see just basic outside in. Pull it very tight. And then what you do is you go back out through that same diamond that you went in through. So you basically go through that same diamond. And I'll show you what that's going to do in a second when it's tight. What that does is it pulls that diamond very tight. It leaves the outside row open, which doesn't really matter, but basically it pulls it tighter without pulling it down as much. It pulls it across more. And I mean, it's not just for looks. What it's going to do is it's going to reduce whip. So that's one thing it does. I'm not sure if it really affects the channel. I haven't noticed anything. So I wouldn't be too concerned. So for this head, it's pretty basic. You're just going to do that. You're going to do the same exact thing for the next hole, so I'll show you again. Go through the outside, the mesh. Go through the outside, the plastic. Do your interlock. Pull it tight. This way it keeps both those diamonds tight. And then, what you're going to want to do is go back out through that same diamond that you went in through. And what that's just going to do, like I said, it's going to keep it very tight. If you notice sometimes when your stick gets broken in, it'll throw good. It'll throw like the way you want it, but when you go to take a shot, like a harder shot, it'll curve down a little bit, like it'll throw down more compared to what you're used to throwing with, or it'll get caught in the stick or something. What that means is that your top is loose, whether it's traditional or mesh. It just means that your top part of your stick is too loose, and you're just going to want to tighten it up next time, and that's going to save you the trouble. It's probably that, or your sidewalls are too loose. So these two diamonds tight, up top the first two, and the first two string holes. What that's going to do is that's going to help prevent that problem. Now for the OG Proton, the next thing I'm going to want to do is take the hole furthest to the outside now. So now we're going to the hole directly, like sort of diagonal underneath it. Go through the outside. Don't go through the plastic hole immediately because there's no hole near it. Then go back around to the outside, and then through the outside of the next hole under it. So we're done with using that next hole inside now. Now we're using the very outside row. You can see. Try and get it under the light more. Then you're going to do the same thing you did. Through the plastic. Keep it tight. Then you're going to want to go out through that same piece of mesh. Pull it tight again. Now, when people say double up and everything, this is what they mean. This is actually, what I'm going to do for this is a triple up. No, actually, I want this to be a lower pocket. So if you want it to be a lower pocket, you're not going to want to double up as high. You're going to want to double up lower. So this is going to be a double up. Go through the inside. Wrap it around. And then for the next hole, you're going to want to go through the outside. This is going to be the one that's going to go through the plastic. Actually, this is going to be a triple up because I want it to have a little less whip. If you want to reduce the whip, you're going to want more of a ramp. So it's going to be more of a gradual incline into the pocket. So I want this to have lower whip. So I'm going to go through the inside of the mesh, out for 2 diamonds. Do that. And then for the last one, you're going to want to tie it off to the hole again. Go through the outside of the diamond like I've been doing the rest. Outside of the diamond, then through the mesh hole, through the outside in. And then back out through the mesh hole. Same hole you went out through. And then pull it tight. And you can see, it's probably what you've seen before. Maybe a little different. The next one, you're going to want to do the same thing. Go under the mesh. Try and clear this up for you guys. Go under the mesh, the sidewall. Take the sidewall, go under the mesh. So you're going to take what would be on the inside of the mesh when the pocket's done. Under it once. Wrap it around. Go under the next hole once. So from the inside of the pocket out for the next hole. And then on the next hole after that, so you went under twice. The next hole after that, you're going to want to pull this one through the outside. Go through the outside of the plastic hole. Do your interlock. And then go back out through that same hole. I'm going back out through the same hole I came in through for that one. And what that does is it pulls the mesh down tight flat on the plastic. It reduces whip. It's going to help keep your pocket. It's going to reduce whip. It's going to keep your pocket like I'm not gonna say stronger or anything, but it's gonna keep it from wearing out faster. Like, it's not gonna stretch out as much. It's gonna be more natural for the mesh. Like, it's not folding it too much. It's keeping it nice and flat. What that's gonna do is it's gonna give you better channel, less whip. It's gonna be more consistent. And if you don't like less whip, that's not a problem. All you gotta do is you gotta put shooting strings on it and make the shooting strings tighter. So that's not a problem. You want less whip because you never know in the future if when the pocket breaks in, depending on the mesh you're using, if more whip is going to come from it. This is my wax mesh. This piece is 13 millimeter. It is waxed already. You see a little bit of wax, no flakes. Yeah, show you guys close up. No flakes. It's very shiny actually. But it's just the wax I use. So that's that. And do the same thing for the next hole. Through the inside out once. Inside out twice. Then through the outside on the last hole. Then for the last hole, what I like to do is a love knot, which I will show you guys right now. You start off going on the outside of the plastic with an interlock. You would come from the inside and you'd push out through that way, and then go back around through here and pull tight. A love knot, what you do is you go the opposite way that you would normally go, and then you make a loop, basically. I'll pull that tight as you. This loop, you want to make sure that loop is pulled tight. This way the knot is tight, because you don't want any slack. That's why this knot is used, to stop from slack. You're going to want to go through that loop and pull it tight. And that's people call a love knot. It basically keeps the whole pocket tight. Then you go back around through the inside, go through that hole right above it, and then tie it off. This way, even if your knot is loose, or if you don't even want to tie it off, you just want to keep trying different patterns until you get one you love, then you can do that, and then you just keep, like, this way you don't need to keep on tying it. You don't even need to tie it off. That'll probably be good. I wouldn't do it like that in game, leaving it untied, but for a little bit of wall ball, it's fine. Now, here's a quick trick to show you guys, because this video is becoming pretty long. I'm not going to do this whole sidewall right now. Maybe I'll do it at the end of another video, but what I'm going to show you guys right now, you basically do the same thing except on the other side, but I'm going to show you a quick way to see how your pocket is going to look. You take the middle diamond of your mesh all the way down, and you basically hold it in the middle of the head. You could shape it out, and then you could basically see what your pocket is going to look like. What this is going to look like, you see it's going to have a decent channel for a wide head. It's not going to be too deep. Mid-low pocket, just like I wanted. And then you're going to tie off on the bottom, the end of a decent pocket. Now this is going to stretch, and you could always leave the bottom looser to make the pocket deeper, but you get a basic idea of it. Now, this is 13 millimeter mesh, so if you have 15 millimeter mesh, what I basically did was I tripled up I tripled up 3 times here, which for 15 millimeter mesh you may not want to do. What I would do for 15 millimeter mesh is I would do it how I tie it off. I go through how I do an interlock. I go from the outside of the mesh hole, then outside plastic, then do the interlock, then go back out through that same mesh hole. I would do that. Then I would go from the inside of the mesh out, wrap it around one piece of mesh, and then tie it off into the plastic again. That's how I do it, instead of going through from the inside out twice with the mesh. That's just going to make the pocket a little smaller, but since this is 13 millimeter mesh, and you probably most likely use 15 millimeter mesh, it's probably going to make it almost identical. So that's a tutorial on regular mesh. Try it out, give me feedback if you want any more tutorials, like I'll do a triangle top string tutorial, probably on the same head finish. I'll show you guys how it comes out. I'll show you guys how to do the bottom string, how to adjust your pocket, shooter preferences and stuff. So get back to me by the end of the week and I'll probably do a video on that. If you guys want me to do a tutorial or anything, just let me know, like a traditional or something. Parts of a traditional shooting strings, just let me know. Alright.